Hi, welcome to Ask Ann Anything, a show where we talk about real estate, credit, and consumer finance. We are getting a lot of questions centered around the current housing market. Home prices and rents have skyrocketed, and the shortage of inventory has left so many people scrambling to find a suitable place to live. Housing insecurity is real, and its effects will impact future generations. Today, we are going to talk to a mortgage loan officer to gain a better understanding of what you need to do to position yourself to qualify for a loan to purchase a home. But before we bring him on, I want to briefly address a few of the questions that a lot of you have been asking. The first one, is it a good time to sell my home? Yes, if you have somewhere else to live. The second one, if I buy a house, how do I get started? Well, the best way to start is to take a home buyer education class. At the end of the show, we will share with you how you can register for our live Zoom classes. The third question, if I have a bankruptcy or a foreclosure on my credit, can I still buy a house? Yes, you can. However, there may be a waiting period that your lender will share with you. And lastly, what do I do if I've been turned down for a mortgage loan in the past? Well, you need to find out why you were turned down and develop a plan. Remember, one no doesn't mean you can't buy a home, as you will learn from my special guest, Demetrius Lockett, a senior executive loan originator with Southeast Mortgage. Welcome, Demetrius.
Well, hello, Ann. How are you?
I am well, and I'm so excited.
I'm so proud of you. This is excellent. This is excellent. I think that more people should do exactly what you're doing, educating the folks on what's going on. So thank you for letting me be on one of your very first shows. That means a lot.
Well, listen, I couldn't think of a better loan officer to have because, see, I can put you in the hot seat.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I know you can handle it.
I can handle it. I'm ready for it.
Okay, so listen, we're going to jump in. And one thing I knew when you came to the show, even though we have some things we want to cover, I don't know which way we're going to go. So we're going to be led by the Holy Spirit, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's have some
wonderful.
fun.
So let's jump in. One thing that I tell clients when I am working with them in my capacity as a real estate agent is that no doesn't always mean no. And let me tell you what I mean by that, okay? Because again, I'm going back, yes, you can get a mortgage. You may get a no with one loan, one company, but another company will work with you, will talk to you about some challenges that they see and work with you and help you overcome some things. And what was a hard no with company A, maybe, well, listen, if you do some things, if we can get this together, if we can work on that, I can help you here.
Absolutely.
And I think that was one of the things that drew me to you. And I thoroughly enjoy our working relationship because you sincerely care about your clients.
I absolutely do. I think it's a ministry that we're doing. Because of course, part of what we're supposed to do is help to house people. And and we talked about this before, that in different cultures, they handle credit and purchases different ways. And unfortunately, in a lot of our culture, and I think we talked about it before, when some other cultures sit down at dinner, they talk about credit and acquisitions and buying property. Unfortunately, when we sit down at dinner, it's more of a social thing if we're sitting together. But it's more of a social thing. We're not talking about how to sustain wealth and legacy and those kind of things. So this is a chance for me to kind of help to level the playing field, because buying a house is more than just a place to live.
Yes, it is.
And I do believe you talk about company A and company B. Anybody can buy a house. Anybody that I speak to can be approved. Maybe not now.
All right.
But within 12 months, if you know what to do, because it's just a formula that you have to follow. And unfortunately, a lot of times, because this is a commissioned job, most loan officers are only getting paid when they close a loan. So obviously, a lot of times, especially if you are newer in the business, you can't help people in terms of preparing them and avoid the people that are already ready. So a lot of times, loan officers, unfortunately, sometimes realtors too, are going for people that are already ready. So who helps the people that aren't? And that's what I'd like to do.
And you know what? And that's a good point, because a lot of times I'll talk with clients and they'll feel like they've started the process. They've talked with the person one time, but they won't call me back. Or they won't go. And you're right, it may be that very, very thing. So let's go back. Let's start back at the beginning, how we can help people, because at the end of the day, that's what you and I both want. We know that there are two things that keep people from qualifying a loan. The top two reasons people don't qualify for a loan. One is credit score, and the other is debt to income ratio. We know that. And you know what? I meant to have a stick here, because as we start talking about one of these things, I have this analogy, and I'm going to tell you what this analogy is now, and we'll just pretend that this pen is my stick.
Okay.
And I tell people, you don't give a person a stick to crack over your head. What do I mean by that? When we look at things as it relates to credit, we sometimes make decisions, and those decisions do not take us where it is we're trying to go. If that goal is home ownership and we need a good credit score, we'll wind up making some decisions, and that will be the very thing that somebody uses against you. Whether it be, you bought something you weren't supposed to buy, or somebody convinced you to do something. You take yourself out of position for home ownership because of some decisions that you made. So let's talk about this credit piece first.
And I want to add one other thing before. I would say it's three things.
Okay.
And I would say even that this third thing is probably bigger than anything else. Because sometimes you can't change your income. Sometimes you don't have a whole bunch of debt. You just don't have a whole bunch of income. But for a large section of first-time home buyers, especially first-time home buyers that are first-generation homeowners, it's the money for down payment.
Oh, we're going to go there.
It's the money for down payment that stops so many people from being able to buy a house. Because think about it. Most people, especially first-time home buyers, they want to pay their rent. And in my community, my mother and grandmother said, if you don't pay anything else, you pay your rent.
Right.
You can sit in the dark and not have water, but
pay your rent, have a roof over your head.
So when we're looking at getting people into a house, most people have great housing history. So we perhaps maybe need to relook at how we're approving people, because all we want as a lender is to get our money back. So the greatest predictor of habit is previous habit. So if you're always paying your rent and this mortgage is not more than your rent, why don't we approve it? So I think we have to look also at different ways to do stuff and ways to get people in without this very large down payment.
Okay, so now listen, you jumped ahead on me.
Sorry.
It's all good, because listen, like I said, we just go back. So let me go back to this first thing.
Okay.
And then let's jump to that's the asset piece. Okay. That down payment, because I really have some things I want to talk about with regards to that. So I was basing it on some research that came out recently, and they showed different demographics and the reasons they were denied a mortgage.
Okay.
1 and 2 across the board was credit score and debt to income ratio.
Okay.
And either they didn't have the credit score, and we particularly see that in men of color. Even when I'm working with a husband and wife, the wife may have the credit score, but the husband has the income. It's not uncommon to see that. So let's start right here, because a lot of people have a misconception about credit score and what credit score you need to have to qualify for mortgage. So what I want to do is let's just deal with some of these little basic things, get them out the way, and then we're going to have some more conversation along the lines of what you were just talking about. Is that cool?
I love that.
Okay, so right now, used to be that we would tell everybody 620, 620, 620. Now I think it's at least 640. Yes, you can get a mortgage with some lenders, particularly mortgage brokers. They have some loan products where you can get in at 580. But one of the things I tell people, if you're getting a loan with a 580 credit score, your interest rate is going to be sky high.
Absolutely, because rate is attached to risk.
Right. Right. So right now, if a person is going an FHA loan, typically lenders are wanting to see what score?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because yes, the general rule is 620 or higher. My company loves 640, but we also go down to 600. So what happens when we're talking about scores, those are guidelines, those are rules. And it's not, actually, it's more of a guideline than a rule.
Okay.
The whole purpose of an underwriter, and that's the person that looks over the paperwork, is to make a decision based on your particular situation. So what I try and share to people is know what your credit is. You don't necessarily have to be preoccupied by credit score, because if you're doing the right stuff on your credit, the score will follow. But the thing that's important to know is that it's part of a process. So if you're preparing yourself for home ownership, why would you prepare yourself for home ownership at the highest level? Why would you work to get a 580 when you can get a 640? And why would you get a 640 if you can get a 700? I think the whole purpose is to have a plan. And so often we don't have a plan, or if we have a plan, you put it into your realtor's lap or your loan officer's lap. It's not their dream. We're just supposed to walk you through that dream. So I don't know about you, but for anything that I really want, I have to really go after. So if I'm calling a loan officer or a realtor and they're not calling me back, or they're telling me something that I don't like, even though it's true, you need to suck it up, because all they're doing is they're helping you to walk through your dream. So you can't always think they're not calling me back or they're not giving me their full attention. They are. But remember, they don't get paid until you close. So they can't spend 100% of time with you. You have to also be part of your own recovery. That's really, really important, I think.
Oh, this is good stuff. Okay, so we understand that credit score, the underwriter is not going to look at credit score alone. Right. There's a lot of other variables, a lot of other factors that will come in there. But for the most part, you know, as a real estate broker, what I do when I'm working with clients, before I ever send them to the loan officer, I, in essence, do my own little pre-qual. You know what I mean? I don't want a loan officer to pull credit too quickly and they take a hit when there's certain indicators that say absolutely no, that they won't qualify. And so I have a tendency just to ask a question like your consumer credit score. You know, most people know that because they do the third-party credit score reporting agencies, and I have to let them know that mortgage lenders use a different algorithm. It may not be the same. But the second piece of this credit score is that debt-to-income ratio, that DTI. And I'll ask them, do you have what kind of debt do you have? Oh, I have a car payment and a student loan. Then I follow it up. So how much you pay a month for your car? Oh, $720. And then I stop. Because right away, I can do the math in my head. Even if you have the credit score, that DTI is going to be so out of whack. You have a student loan. Oh,
and what is DTI?
Debt to income ratio. Well, you're not asking me what a DTI is.
I'm just talking for the viewers. They might not know.
Listen, I am
This might be their first show.
You know what? I was wondering. I was saying, oh gosh.
I invite them here and you don't know what DTI is.
I got the wrong lender. He doesn't know what a DTI is. DTI is debt to income ratio. So that lender is going to
Debt to income ratio is the percentage of what you get to spend on your house payment and all of your other debts. So if you make $1,000 and you have a $500 car payment and the most you can spend is 50% of your debt, guess what? You get to live in a car because that's 50%. So you got to get rid of the car so that you can be able to buy a house. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're exactly right. And I have, listen, for those of you out there, I have a slide. Because you see, Demetrius and I can go back and forth, but I'm going to put something up on the screen so that you can have a look at it, and it will kind of explain exactly what you're saying about, and I show them the front end ratio and the back end ratio. So you're right. You know, they're wound up making a certain amount of money. You're spending $720 for a car.
Right.
And I'm like, and then I ask you about student loan. Oh, well, it's in deferment. You know, but many times the student loans are in deferment. They don't understand. At some point, it comes out of deferment.
It comes right back to that whole kitchen table talk. Understanding about credit and understanding about the integrity of paying people back and how credit actually works. I remember, because for a portion, I grew up with my grandma, Marina, and I remember I grew up like a lot of people I know, very meager means, poor. And she was a nurse that worked in a psychiatric facility, which is kind of interesting that I do mortgages. But she would always say, if you don't have enough money, you give everybody a little bit. So everybody knows that your intention is to pay them, which sounds great. But that's not a smart credit move.
Right.
Because now all of your credit is late.
That's right. I see.
So a lot of that is us retraining ourselves. And so often we get frustrated by the person telling us something that we don't go deeper. We just feel like, you just don't want us to have a house. Or, I got a car. We start making those excuses. So you have to, I think, really be serious about buying a house, because anybody can. If you can't buy a house today, there's nothing you can do about it. But if a year from now, we've talked and you still can't buy a house, that's all your fault.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to qualify that. You can, if a year from now you still haven't been approved, based on house prices now, you can be approved and still can't buy a house.
Yeah.
House prices have gotten so high.
They are. What are you going to do about it?
I know. Me and Cassie I have a good friend that's going to come and talk, and we're going to sit down and talk about some of this.
I was talking to Cassie earlier, and we were just talking about the difference in how much just a beginning apartment or house is. I don't know what's really going to happen to this market in Atlanta.
Well, that's a discussion for a whole nother day, a whole nother episode. So let's get back to what we were talking about, though. So we talked about this credit score. We talked about the debt to income ratio, and you brought up the other piece. And that was the third reason that people were denied a mortgage, as that dealt with the assets, the down payment. There is a misconception that a lot of people have that you must have 20%
oh my God,
to put down.
It is a misconception.
I don't know where that comes from. No, you don't have to have 20% down. Now, let me say this, and I want to say this. I want to say this gingerly.
Okay.
I'm often asked about various people who give professional people who give financial advice. And, well, what do you think about so-and-so's program or so-and-so's financial program or so-and-so? And I don't knock anybody's financial program. What I will say to you and what I will say to all of you out there, you need to make sure that whatever they are sharing fits the group of people or the audience. Make sure it's appropriate for the audience.
Right.
You have some demographics at the kitchen table, mom and dad, they always said 20%. You got to save up 20%, and that's no problem because they probably have 40 or 50% they could put down if they wanted to.
Did you know that used to be true?
Used to be.
That's before FHA.
Okay.
Before mortgage insurance, because everybody always wonders what mortgage insurance is. All mortgage insurance is, which is required if you don't put 20% down, it's that portion that bridges the gap so that you don't have to put 20% down, and then the mortgage insurance company is going to say, lender, if you follow these guidelines and they default before they have 20% into it, we got you covered.
Right.
And that allows us to do that. But, I mean, you can get into some properties with nothing down. But I will also say where zero is not even close to being realistic in most cases, it's as unrealistic as having to put 20% down.
Ooh, that's good.
Typically, you can put down as little as 3 to 3.5%.
And so that we are very clear, I got you. I'm saying that right now, and you tell me if I'm wrong, right now, if a person wanted to buy a house and they're getting an FHA loan, they are only required to put 3.5% down. In other words, that's what they have to have available come to closing. We know about the mortgage insurance.
Well, let's look at that a little bit deeper, because the reason I say that is I've been doing mortgages forever.
I know you have.
But
you're old man.
I know you make it sound so sad, so sad. Like I need a program. Okay. But no, people they say it, but they don't do the math. For example, if you're buying a $100,000 house and you need 20% down, you know how much money that is? Most people don't. They just think 20% is a lot of money. That's $20,000, which they don't think they can come up with. That you say 3%, oh, they can do that. But that's still a lot of money. You have to do the math. And the other thing to remember is your down payment is not The only thing you need to buy a house is just one of several things. So I think that's the biggest thing that I found with a lot of people as you're pre-qualifying and pre-approving them, is it's become a little bit more challenging, because before you could speak to people, especially in the Atlanta market, and say you qualify for $100,000, you need to have 3.5% down. Because most everything else we could, roll in and get the seller to pay and all that kind of stuff. But now it's a much different conversation. You could need 3.5%, which on a $100,000 house would be $3,500. Or you might run into a situation where right now in this environment, the seller's not paying any closing costs.
Right.
So now you need another 3.5%. So you don't need $3,500 to buy your $100,000 house. You need $7,000. And that's a big difference. If I'm saving $3,500 and ready to go, to needing another $3,500 and sometimes even more. So that's what I'm really worried about, because down payment, and when I say down payment, I'm talking about the money you need to put down to buy a house. All of the money.
All of it.
The inspection, the appraisal.
Well, I'm glad you differentiated between that, because I was.
A lot of people think that's the same thing. When you tell me your down payment's going to be $5,000, like, oh, good, I got $5,000. Let me call Ann. And then you write the contract and they say, well, you mean I need $15,000?
So when you as a lender, because not all lenders approach it from that point. I can tell you that. When you're telling people down payment, you're not just limiting it to what we typically think of as down payment. You're factoring in the closing costs and all of the other costs that make up that. I like that.
I haven't always done that though, but it's a very much changing environment now.
Yes, it is.
Because before, you would be able to raise the price a little bit, or raise the rate or something to help them pay their other costs. But now we have a increasing rate environment. We have sellers that aren't willing to do anything, and it's still the best time in the world ever to buy a house.
Many people have financial questions and they don't know where to get answers. Now you do. We want to be your resource by providing you with educational information in a way you can easily understand from people you can trust. I invite you to send your questions to Ann at askannanything.com. Your questions form the basis of our show. Additionally, we offer live Zoom educational classes on home buying and credit that you will want to take advantage of. Remember, home buying starts with planning. For more information or to register for our course, go to askann.com. Now, if you enjoyed today's show, please click like and submit. I look forward to seeing you next time.